think that you indicated earlier that in 2000 that only 67% of the people in your
Tennessee
state filled out the census, and now you're trying to improve that this time around, I would imagine. Well, do you think that you're making a greater effort and better organized? It seems now you're better organized than you ever were.
Well, Doctor, we have had people working since 2008 around the state, doing all the things that Trudy talked about, creating partnerships. And we have gotten the message out, but still I'm hearing on television just about every day people saying they don't know what the census is. The census is simply a count of the population every 10 years, as well as electing folk for Congress and the number of seats that are being redistricting. Yes, and that's what the census is about. And if you don't fill it out, you're hurting your community, you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting your state.
And I want to add that the census will count everybody in nursing homes, everybody in hospitals, and everybody, all students that live in dormitories, they will be counted where they are going to college if they're living in dormitories. So parents will not include them at that time because they will be counted if they live in, all of the students that live in the dormitories at TSU, Vanderbilt, MTSU, but they will be counted towards that particular city and population. So it is, and we counting the homeless. We have a special entity where we are counting the homeless, as well as people in the prisons will be counted as well. They are counted one time where they are sleeping the most at the times the forms come out.
And so that's the system. That's the key to it, that wherever that individual is staying at the time that they receive that form, that's where they ought to be counted. And you want to count everybody. Is that what we're saying?
That's
that you want,
exactly what we're
and
saying.
that nobody should have any kind of fear because you're where. Now, what are those badges? Explain those badges.
These badges, everybody that works for the census goes through a FBI fingerprint clearance by the FBI. And then we are sworn to confidentiality for life. So that means after the census is over and the jobs we have at the census is over, then we are sworn to confidentiality. And if we violate this confidentiality to identify where anyone is located, we will go to jail for 5 years and pay a fine up to $250,000. And so we want to make sure that everyone is counted and they feel safe, and that they don't have to worry about whether or not they should, if their information will be violated. The information is confidential for 72 years. So most of us will be dead and gone. But a lot of our family members will use that information for genealogy. And you can only go back to the genealogy information back to the 1970s, 1930s, correction. So it's confidential for 32 years. And the only count that the president will get, it's been a constitutional mandate since 1790, that we count everybody that's living in this country. And so he would only get the head count. He will not get any confidential information. He would get a numbers count, and then he will pass that numbers count on to the governor, who will pass it back to the cities to make sure they get monies for operations.
And of course, this also is important to excuse me, various ethnic groups and minority groups and et cetera, and that those individuals who believe that it might be some kind of conspiracy on the part of somebody to find illegal immigrants and et cetera, that has nothing to do with this count.
We cannot report any, we cannot report anything to immigrations. We abide by our sworn oath that we can't do that. We can't report anything to the FBI, law enforcement. By law, no census worker can report anything. Everything is safe and confidential.
Very good. And of course, over the last half minute we have here, let me thank the two of you, Mr. Darby and Ms. Parham, for coming by and giving us that excellent information. And as a matter of fact, I think that I probably gained more out of this conversation this morning than perhaps even some members of our audience, because I was under some wrong impressions in reference to it. And now I think that I understand it better. But I also understand that this is an urgent kind of situation,
Urgent,
that
yes.
People have to be counted,
Yes.
and that there's no reason or no rationale for anybody to say that we cannot participate in the census, or they cannot participate in the census.
Yes.
Is that, and that's what you're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. Is that right?
Yes, and part of the march to the mailbox on April 10th.
Okay, and of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Congress. Thank you, and good morning.